this. A ticklish debate here in Science News. Now, the issue here is new butterfly species coming about, okay? Anyway, look what it says right here. In what can charitably be called a contentious debate, the two most striking groups of these paleontologists sometimes, okay, almost always, reach interpretations of the data that are poles apart. They defend their analysis with fundamental fervor and fling darts at the opinions of scientists who hold a different view. That's what's been happening here earlier today. When these guys get together, the feathers can really fly. They have such bad personal behavior and such bitterness. I mean, I find this amazing because that is the theme that seems to run through. If somebody doesn't agree with an evolutionist, even another evolutionist, here we go, man. I don't know. Why? Why? It doesn't even seem to make much sense to me, but nevertheless. And I mentioned this last night, the dinosaurs evolving into the birds thing, and it's happened to pick National Geographic, pick any science publication, you pick the science textbook, either way. There's a dinosaur in your backyard. The evidence that birds descended from dinosaurs indeed are dinosaurs. They say the velociraptor is now a crow. They're saying that T-Rex is a chicken in Discovery. It's amazing. I mentioned this one last night about the USA Today putting this thing out. It's in all kinds of publications, all kinds of textbooks. It's in this textbook right here. It's in all these things these days. They talk about how yesterday's T-Rex is today's chicken. Well, I would dare say that there's not much science to do that. Now, you can, and again, we discussed how the issue is there's a similar construction, a similar makeup, chemical makeup of things, which there has to be, or nothing could ever get nutrition from anywhere. There has to be some commonality among things, otherwise nothing could eat and get nutrition. But to say because it has a certain percentage of this, that, and another thing, it used to be another thing, that's interpretation. Anybody's free to believe that if they'd like to. But look, we've got a wooden wall here, we've got a wooden platform, or podium thing here, we've got a wooden floor here, we've got wood all over. That doesn't mean that it all used to be each other. It just means somebody made the thing with the same materials. That's all. And there are often two ways to look at the same thing. I dare say there's enough difference here to overcome any similarities that there might be somewhere. But hey, people are free to believe that a T-Rex is now a chicken, if they want to. But it just seems to me to fly in the face of logic, number one, science, number two, and I don't understand why a person like me would be totally ridiculed if I say, I don't believe a T-Rex turned into a chicken. That just doesn't seem to make much sense. But hey, people can believe it if they want. But what does the evidence show? Well, the evidence does show that if there was a T-Rex alive and it gave birth, it'd be a T-Rex. The evidence does show when a chicken gives birth, it's a chicken. The evidence does always show what the Bible says. It always will show whatever God says, because thy word is truth, as we talked about last night. Hey, I wonder if there's any science again. Well, there are all kinds of varieties of corn. You can crossbreed corn from now to forever. You are not going to get even a nectarine to grow on a corn stalk, much less an elephant. I mean, it is not going to happen. Everything is going to stay what it is because that's what God told it to do. You see, now people are free to believe everything goes back to something else and branches off into all kinds of everything if they want to, but it doesn't seem to fit the evidence in a lot of people's minds, that's for sure. Hey, you know what? A tomato vine will never produce a watermelon. It is not going to grow there. Now, people are free to believe that tomatoes and watermelons go back to the same common ancestor, along with cabbage and giraffes if they want to, but there's no science for that, you see. That's the problem. But what does the Bible say? Well, there are varieties of cattle from the cattle kind. There are varieties of bird from the bird kind. There are varieties of everything, but everything reproduces after his kind. And that most assuredly appears to be what the evidence confirms. So I don't know how anybody could have an argument with that very issue. You can crossbreed cows, so now the cows come home, and you're never going to get a cow the size of this building. I mean, there's a genetic code locked in, and you get too far away from it, you don't get another thing, you get mutations. You get problems. Here's an example, a two-headed cat. He's dead. Hey, here's another one. Here's a six-legged cat. He's dead. Here's a two-headed cat. He's dead. I find it amazing. I find this absolutely amazing. When you can be something, and you can have an extra something you already have, and you're not going to survive. But yet we're supposed to believe that everything changed into something totally different over time. I find that amazing when the evidence confirms you can't even get an extra something you already have that works, and it doesn't work out that way. See, the point is, folks, what things are is what they are, and when there is a deviation from that, it is a problem. It's not going to turn into something else, you see. Now, even the textbooks sort of allude to this. Here's a two-headed snake. It says, mutations such as these rarely survive because the internal organs are often greatly deformed and therefore weaker and more vulnerable. Well, sure, he's more vulnerable. I mean, the problem is, folks, the evidence that is before people's eyes confirm that things are what they are, and when they're not exactly right, they are problems. But yet, we're supposed to still believe in the face of that everything on the planet goes back to a common ancestor. Well, I don't see there's any evidence for that. But think of it this way. Natural selection is always a loss of information. You know, the whole idea, the theory of evolution by means of natural selection, you know, it's always a loss of information. You know, if something is selected out, it's dead. It's not going to pass on any genetics. If something is selected for survival, so for instance, you got a population of wolf and a population of bunny rabbit. The wolf are going to naturally select the bunny rabbits out of here. They're dead. They can't pass on any genetics. They just die. The wolf are going to have wolf for babies. There's nothing new put into the formula here to make it turn into something else. It's still going to stay what it is. It is going to stay what it is. It's not going to turn into something else. Now watch this. This is amazing to me too. This topic is fascinating. This is way back in 1996, so, you know, some people think, it's old-fashioned, not even worth discussing. Well, let's take a look here. From fin to hand. In evolution, small changes add up to slow big ones. The mutation happens in a blink of an eye. Blink of an eye, the fin can turn into a hand. Well, I'd like to see some evidence where that happens, actually. But nevertheless, hey, watch this. This is amazing to me. But that was back in 96, but November 2000, muscle evolution from fins to four legs. Hey, how about April 06 when fins became limbs? I mean, we've been teaching the same thing for years, still doing the same thing. Our fingers and toes really did evolve from the fins of ancient fish. The discovery that finally resolves the debate. Well, you know, it's going to be amazing to me. It always happens because I've been tracking this for many, many years in all kinds of different avenues and venues and publications and such. This is going to be shown to be not so once and for all again, and it's going to be amazing to me. It's sort of, well, never mind, another topic. But the point is, again, in a nutshell, very oversimplistic issue here, a way of explaining it, but they say this life started in the water and climbed up on the land. Well, people are free to believe that, you know, and then some decided to go back into the water. People are free to believe that kind of thinking if they want to, but there's no science for that. You can't do an experiment to show that happening. It is not going to work out that way. You know, I was in Walhalla High School back in South Carolina back a few years ago, and I remember going to this science class. I go to science classrooms all the time, and it's just an amazing thing to me. But anyway, science rooms, you know, they always have stuff hanging on the walls and the ceilings and all kinds of different stuff here. And they have a chart here. It says the scientific method. Well, let's just take a look at this now. In all science textbooks, in fact, even your science textbook, it shows the scientific method because it is what it is. And look at this. In order to be science, you have to follow the scientific method. Look what it says here. Number one that you have to do is figure out what you want to learn. Let's just take a look at this. Let's see if it's true that fins actually turn into legs and limbs and such. Let's see if we can do an experiment to show this here. Okay, the next step to be science, research. Find out as much about your topic as you can. Okay, so we interview the university professors. Oh, they all agree with it. We interview the high school teachers. Oh, they all agree with it. We go down to museums. They have displays on it. Grab all the science publications. They all agree with it. Everybody says it happened. Everybody knows this. In fact, the debate is finally resolved according to the latest discoveries of this issue. Everybody agrees with it. Okay, the next step, hypothesis. Predict the answer to the problem. I find it amazing using a crystal ball here, but oh well. But anyway, I suppose the prediction must be that it happened. But in a very oversimplistic nutshell, they say about 20 billion years ago, a little dot blows up. Out of this rubble, everything shows up, and over time, things get better, and here we are, and we're so smart, we can turn around and look back in time and see how it worked. In a sense, that's what evolution is all about. But anyway, this says here, experiment. Design a test to confirm or disprove your hypothesis. Now, see, the issue is, folks, there is no test that you can do. Now, people are free to believe that something happened if they'd like to, but it's not going to follow the scientific method. It is just wild speculation. There's zero evidence to support, but yet so many people believe because that's what they were taught. You know, the longer somebody believes something, the harder it is for them to change and get out of it, especially if they've taught other people or discussed it in ways, because then there's more at stake, you see. So it kind of becomes a pride issue then. But anyway, so the next step, analysis, record what happened during the experiment. Well, the experiment didn't work. You know what I find amazing? Even your textbook here does it. They all talk about the scientific method. They say if your hypothesis is not supported, you go and revise the thing and form a new one. If your test did work, your hypothesis is supported, you repeat several times the experiment. That is what qualifies something as science. Well, then I suppose there's no science for the evolution issues. Now, people are free to look at fossils if they want to, and line them up however they want to, and say this is what anything else came from if they want to. but you can't do it as an experiment to show it happening now. You cannot do the test to show that it happened. You can only